At the time, it seemed like the right choice. My family was encouraging me to take that step, promising that I'd have all the care and comfort I needed. They assured me it would make things easier. I trusted them, believing it would be a safe and comfortable transition into my later years. But once I moved in, I quickly realized that the reality of nursing home life was nothing like what I had imagined. And now, looking back, I want to share with you 6 things I wish someone had told me before I made that decision. These insights are incredibly important because life in a nursing home isn't just about convenience. It's about your entire existence changing, and once you make the move, getting out isn't as easy as you think. I know that many of you watching might be contemplating this option, either for yourself or for a loved one. Perhaps you think it's the safest decision or that it will make life easier. But before you take that step, I want to share my regrets with you. They might surprise you, and they might help you make a more informed decision for your future. Let's dive into the first regret: losing my independence. Regret 1: losing my independence. The biggest shock for me after moving into the nursing home wasn't the small room, the fixed meal times, or even the unfamiliar faces. It was the overwhelming realization that I had lost control over my own life. Before moving in, I was free. I had my own routines, and I decided when to wake up, when to eat, and how to spend my day. I could take a walk whenever I wanted, cook my meals, or just relax in my favorite chair, reading a book. But in the nursing home, I quickly realized that my time was no longer my own. Everything was on a set schedule that wasn't mine. Breakfast was at a specific time, even if I wasn't hungry. Lights out happened at a certain hour, regardless of whether I felt like going to bed or not. Want to take a walk outside? You might need permission and have to wait for someone to be available to help you. It was the small things that really hit me the hardest. Simple decisions like what to eat or even what to wear started to feel like privileges rather than basic choices. I remember my first week in the nursing home. I woke up in a bed that didn't feel like mine. I reached for my book, my familiar comfort, but when I looked around the room, I was hit with the realization this wasn't my home. The little things I cherished, my books, my favorite chair, were gone. In their place were sterile walls and a bed I didn't choose, and suddenly I wasn't in charge of my life anymore. The hardest part? Realizing that once you give up your independence, getting it back is nearly impossible. You adapt because you have no choice, but in doing so, you begin to lose yourself. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you ready to give up the small freedoms that make life uniquely yours? Once they're gone, you'll miss them more than you could ever imagine. Regret 2: feeling forgotten. One of the most painful truths about moving into a nursing home is realizing that the world outside just keeps moving without you. When I first arrived, my family reassured me that they would visit often. I believed them, and in the beginning they did. My daughter came by once a week, and my grandchildren visited on weekends. For a while, it felt like I still had a connection to my old life. But as time went on, the visits became less frequent. My daughter started calling instead of coming by in person. My grandchildren got busier with school and work. Holidays were the hardest. Everyone promised they would come, but for some reason, their plans always changed last minute. And soon I found myself sitting alone in a common room, staring at the door, hoping someone would remember to visit. It wasn't that my family stopped loving me. It was just that life outside, the nursing home, kept going, and they thought I was fine. The truth is, the longer you're in a nursing home, the easier it is for people to forget how much you still need them. I remember one evening, sitting in my room holding my phone and debating whether I should call my son. I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to remind him that I was here, waiting for a visit that might never come. So I put the phone down, and that's when it hit me. This was my life now. Watching the days go by, hoping that someone would remember me. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared for the loneliness? Because no matter how much your family loves you, once you're out of sight, it's easy for you to become out of mind. Regret 3: losing my sense of purpose. When I moved into the nursing home, I thought I was just changing where I lived. But I quickly realized I was also changing why I lived. At home, I had responsibilities. I had routines and hobbies. Even the little things, watering the plants, making my coffee, tidying up, gave me a sense of purpose. But in the nursing home, those daily rituals disappeared. Meals were made for me. Cleaning was done for me. The plants, well, they weren't mine to care for anymore. At first, I thought it would be nice to relax, no chores, no responsibilities. But after a few weeks, I realized something was missing. The days felt long and I had nothing to do but wait. I saw it in other residents too. People who were once full of energy now spent their days sitting, staring, waiting for time to pass. There was George, 84, who had been a carpenter his entire life. At home, he was always working on little projects. But in the nursing home, there were no tools, no projects. He told me one day, "I feel useless," and I understood exactly what he meant. When you lose your sense of purpose, life starts to feel empty. Your mind slows down and so does your body. Soon, you start to feel like just another resident in a place where nothing ever really changes. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, what gives your life meaning? Because once you move in, finding purpose isn't as simple as filling your time. It's about holding on to the things that make you feel alive. Regret in 4. Declining health faster than expected. Before I moved into the nursing home, I was doing okay for my age. I wasn't running marathons, but I could take care of myself, go for walks and cook my own meals. I had little routines that kept me moving, grocery shopping, stretching in the mornings, even walking around the house to keep my legs strong. But once I moved in, everything changed. At first, I thought it was just about taking it easy. Meals were brought to me, and if I needed something, I could push a button and someone would come to help. But what I didn't realize was that the less I did for myself, the weaker I became. I stopped moving as much, and soon my legs felt stiffer. Getting up from a chair started feeling like a chore. Muscles I'd spent years maintaining were disappearing faster than I'd ever imagined. I wasn't the only one. People who could walk on their own suddenly found themselves relying on wheelchairs. Others, once independent, now needed help with things they never struggled with before. The more help we were given, the more we needed it. I remember Alice, an 81-year-old woman who was lively when she first arrived. She insisted on taking daily walks around the facility, saying she wasn't going to slow down just because of her age. But after a few months, I noticed she wasn't walking as much. She started using a walker and eventually a wheelchair. One day, she said to me, "I don't know when it happened, but I feel like I've aged 10 years in just a few months. If I had known how quickly I would lose my strength, I would have fought harder to keep moving to stay active and to push myself even when I didn't feel like it." Regret 5. Loss of privacy and dignity. One of the things I didn't fully consider before moving into a nursing home was just how much privacy I would lose. At home, I had my own space. I could close my bedroom door, sit in silence when I wanted, and do things on my own terms. But in the nursing home, privacy was a luxury I didn't always get to keep. From the moment I arrived, I felt like I was constantly being watched. Staff came in and out of my room. Room checks were scheduled, and shared spaces meant you were rarely alone. Even something as private as getting dressed or using the bathroom often required someone's assistance. I know they were just doing their job, but it wasn't easy to ask for help with things I had done on my own for so many years. Want to take a shower? You might have to wait for someone to help. Need to use the restroom? Sometimes pressing the call button meant waiting longer than I would have liked. Even meal choices were limited. If you didn't like what was on the menu that day, too bad. There's also the issue of roommates. Not everyone gets a private room, and sharing a space with someone you didn't choose can be frustrating. I was lucky to have a kind roommate, but I heard stories of others whose roommates were loud, unclean, or even had cognitive issues that made sleep impossible. Privacy is something we take for granted, and when you lose it, it's more difficult to adjust than you might think. Regret 6. Realizing it's harder to leave than you think. When I first moved into the nursing home, I told myself it was only temporary. I thought if I didn't like it, I could always leave. But I didn't realize just how hard it would be to get out once I was in. At first, it seemed simple. If I didn't like it, I could just go back home. But when I tried to bring up the idea of leaving, I quickly realized that my house wasn't the same anymore. My children had already made changes, sold things they thought I wouldn't need, and even started considering renting out the place. They began to hesitate. "Are you sure you can manage on your own? Isn't it safer to stay here? We just want what's best for you." There was also the physical decline. After months of living in a place where I didn't have to cook or clean, I wasn't as strong as I used to be. The independence I had started slipping away, making the idea of returning home more daunting than I had imagined. Some residents, like me, thought the nursing home was a temporary solution. But for many, once you're in, it's not so easy to leave. Final thoughts. Looking back, I don't regret growing older, but I do regret believing that moving into a nursing home was my only option. I walked in expecting comfort, safety, and a better quality of life. What I found instead was a world that gradually took away my independence, my privacy, my sense of purpose, and even my dignity. Does that mean nursing homes are all bad? Not necessarily. For some people, they genuinely need the level of care that a nursing home provides. But before you make that decision, think carefully about what you're giving up. Because once you move in, life will never be the same again. If I could do it over, I would have fought harder to stay in my own home. I would have explored more ways to get help without giving up my freedom and made sure I truly needed to move before making such a permanent decision. If you're facing this decision, I hope you take the time to ask yourself, is this truly what's best for me? Or is it just the easiest choice right now? Because the life you have today, your routines, your independence, your choices, is worth holding on to for as long as you can.